What's going on, everyone? Data Report here for datareport.info with today's climate discussion for Friday, February 17, 2023. Taking a look at the national satellite picture, you can see the middle sections of the country have cleared out. There is a small system in the northwest that's providing some unsettled weather, and the big system that has been the weather maker throughout the week, here it is. There's an area of low pressure up in the north with a trailing cold front that is starting to clear the coast, and the actual last bands of precip are starting to clear New England. There is a little squall line within this. It's hard to see. I will zoom in. See right here from Baltimore through Pennsylvania on up into New York. That is the actual cold front, and there is a squall line with some gusty winds and some heavy rainfall along that. So I'm patiently waiting for that to hit here in Philly. And you can see there out in the northwest, there's the small system that is providing some rain for Seattle and some unsettled weather. Taking a look at the national hazards map, not much to report on. There is in far northern New England, with what's left of this system, with what's exiting, some of it is in the winter variety, and there is some winter storm warnings in northern Maine. Taking a look at the national temperatures, you can see here on the East Coast, it is still well above average with 60s all the way up to Baltimore and D.C. South of that, you have widespread swath of 70s and even some 80s down in Florida. This is actually going to change over the next 12 to 24 hours. And cooler weather will come in at least for a brief period of time. With the above normal temperatures, you have this. In the DC metro area, this is by the Capital Weather Gang. They are, if you don't follow them on Twitter, you should follow them. They are a great source of weather information, not only for the DC area, but for the national and worldwide picture. And the trees are already starting to blossom down in DC area. There's already some budding happening on the trees, which is really early for this time of year. It is actually the biggest February tree pollen explosion on record. And take a look at this map that they provided. Yeah, look at this. You can see here, the map shows where spring leaves are emerging. It's already happening just south and east of Washington, and it's the earliest in at least 40 years. You can see it happening here. The dark green, those are the areas where it's the earliest. Even in Texas, it's coming earlier. But look out on the West Coast where they've actually had a cold winter. It's actually running behind schedule. Remember, when the West is really cold, the East is really warm in the wintertime. It's like a seesaw. More so in the winter than the summertime, but yeah, it's happening. All right, taking a look at the storm reports for the last couple days from the Storm Prediction Center. There were indeed some severe weather reports. Maybe not to the extent that the Storm Prediction Center was calling for, but there was one tornado in Arkansas on Wednesday. Yesterday, there were a few more tornadoes, especially in Mississippi. Alabama really lucked out. Look at this map here. Not one severe report in Alabama where there was an enhanced risk. So that's some really good news, and overall it was a bust for severe weather. This was projected to be a much more active picture, and it just wasn't. There were, again, 3 tornadoes in Mississippi. Here you go. Here's one of the reports. Mobile home flipped over and 2 other homes damaged from likely tornado. This was in Lincoln County. In Smith County, a radar confirmed tornado. In Monroe County, a train spotter reported tornado west of Smithville. Radar debris signature was also present on radar. All right, let's talk about the longer range picture. Taking a look here at the GFS model, as I like to look at, you can see the current system does exit the coast, and then some cooler weather comes in for tomorrow. I say the word cooler because it's not really all that cold. We have seen colder weather than this, but tomorrow morning, if you're in the east, it will be below freezing. Look at this. A large area gets below freezing. Extreme northern Maine gets to below 0. The west coast still remains relatively cool, and as does the north. But look at the highs tomorrow. The highs are still above freezing to near 40 for many areas, so that is near normal for the mid-Atlantic region. You have highs below freezing in the northwest. Moving on to the next day, look at this, short-lived, and already by Monday we're back to near 50 in places like Pennsylvania, 70s down in Texas. Going back to the precipitation Look, as you can see here, the next system comes in the east, middle of next week, Wednesday, and then we have this large-scale system that sets up in the Midwest and Northern Plains. This is the one I've been watching, and it's going to provide some wintry weather for Chicago on northwestward. Could actually be a major impact storm for many, just because of the gradient. It could cause flight delays, travel, headaches, and ports like Green Bay could see several inches of snow. And look at New England. Maybe finally some wintry weather. For New England, we'll have to see. The system has been trending a little bit further south. So if that should hold, places like New York State, Vermont, Maine could be in for snow changing over to an ice scenario. Behind this, we have to pay attention. This is where some cooler and colder air finally might come in for a multi-day period. As you can see here, the GFS at 198 hours out, this would be not this weekend, but next weekend, is showing some wintry weather for the Mid-Atlantic. Will that hold? Chances are it will change, but the frequency of colder air does get more frequent on the GFS. Let's take a look at the CMC, the Canadian model, and here you go. The Canadian model is projecting a similar outcome. After the brief cold shot this weekend, it does warm up again on Monday, but look what happens. Here comes that big system I've been talking about. And yes, it warms up out ahead of it, but look what happens here in the Great Lakes in New England. Pretty major winter storm in northern New England. And then behind that, watch. Here comes another shot of colder air, then a brief warm-up, and then yet another system over the Great Lakes with a real deep shot of cold air, something we have not seen since the beginning of this month. And there are some small indications the end of this month into March could finally be colder. Let's take a look at the outlook from the Climate Prediction Center. 6 to 10 day outlook shows well below average temperatures in the west coast, above average temperatures in the southeast, but near normal temperatures now for the mid-Atlantic along the I-80 corridor, which is something we have not seen much of this winter. And look what happens when I go to the 8 to 14 day outlook from the Climate Prediction Center. Well below average continues in the west, but now you have a large swath of near normal from Texas on up into the mid-Atlantic, and below average temperatures up in the north, with above average temperatures staying in the south. So the overall takeaway here is after this weekend and say the middle of next week, we might see more frequency of some cold air shots. Will they be long-lived? Too soon to say, but more frequency of cold air could potentially be coming, which is something we have not seen much of at all this winter in the east. And the west is going to stay cold. That is pretty much a given at this point. Perhaps that maybe potentially flips at some point in March. Alrighty, thanks for watching this climate discussion video. We'll have another one tomorrow. And if you like the content you see on my channel, hit the like and subscribe button down below. Stay safe, everyone.